We're recording. Here we go. So, Act 3, Scene 1. Now, let's start not just by diving straight into Act 3, Scene 1 to do our analysis, but to consider what it means to open Act 3 of the play in terms of structure. So where are we now? Remember that triangle that I put on the board ages ago? We've gone through the exposition and the rising action, and Act 3 is usually the peak, or begins with a C. The climax of Freytag's pyramid, that we start to move. We started here and we've moved up, and Shakespeare very conveniently writes his plays in 5 acts. How many scenes are in Act 5? 1. So it's all nicely tied up in the denouement here. So what we've had, everything is now in place. The love triangle is in place, the Sebastian Antonio is in place, and the gulling of Malvolio. It's all been prefigured here, and it's going to reach its zenith, its climax here, and then it's a case of what happens next. Now, you studied tragedies for GCSE. So what happens at the end of a tragedy? Pretty much everyone is dead. Good. But what happens at the end of a comedy? Everyone is alive, happy, and married. Now, who is married at the end? The only people who are actually married, Maria and Toby, Olivia and Sebastian, are they married? They're not. They've made like a betrothal, haven't they? And what is suggested happens with their wedding? Anybody know? Who else do we know is going to get married? Orsino and Viola, if it's Viola he wants to marry. So there's a suggestion there of a double wedding as well. So that's where we're heading. So that's another way of us thinking about genre, about the difference between a tragedy and a comedy. So here we have Viola and Feste. Feste is obviously our fool, our wit, but Viola is also going to prove that she is quite, I don't mean funny, but she's quick-witted as well. So we might want to think about why these two are together in this scene and what's going on. Save thee, friend, and thy music, dost thou live by thy tabor? Meaning, do you make your living playing music? To which he replies, I mean, it's hilarious, sometimes the tears fall from my eyes with mirth. No, sir, I live by the church. See what he's done there? Do you live by the tabor? No, I live by the church. As in, art thou a churchman? So Viola is still thinking, is that your job? And he says, no, my house doth stand by the church. No? No gales of laughter sweeping the room? Okay. So thou mayest say the king lies by a beggar, if a beggar dwell near him, or the church stands by thy tabor, if thy tabor stand by the church. What do we want to do with this? I'm going to suggest not a lot, except that Viola is able to keep up with Feste in a way that some other characters haven't. So it's further development of Viola's intelligence and characterisation. You have said, sir, to see this age, a sentence is but a cheverel glove to a good wit, how quickly the wrong side may be turned outward. So, it's what is interesting here is this focus on sentence and the idea that language is something if we look here, is something malleable. So we talk about Twelfth Night being a play of changeability, of things being altered. We talk about sex being altered, gender, identity, costume, performance, but language as well is something that's used for changeability. Nay, that's certain, they that dally nicely with words may quickly make them wanton. Right, let's have a look at our notes again. Those who toy daintily with words render their meanings equivocal. Feste's unstable sign-referent relationship. Is that what it says? Sign-referent. I don't know what that means. We might have to look that up. Is turned against him. It's saying to go back and look at 11:13 in the notes. So maybe so what I'm demonstrating here is how to use the notes and how to develop them further. Words may be directly contaminated by their users. So that's the important bit, especially by punning clowns. So this idea that you might make words wanton, and wanton means to be kind of like sexually available. We might want to think about where else we've seen that in the play. People twisting the meaning of words for quite a negative outcome. Where have we just seen that with Malvolio? Talked about it yesterday. These are her C's, her U's, and her T's, right? So it's picking up on what's just literally happened. She get it now. She gets it now. Thank you for that delivery of my book as I am recording. Stickers tomorrow. I'm going to sit and look at it now. I would therefore my sister had no name, sir. Why, man? Why, sir, her name's a word, and to dally with that word might make my sister wanton. So we're linking now the idea of women, of sex, and of language, and of things being manipulated. There's also the sense here, I think, of something about reputation. All it takes is for a woman's name to be damaged, even if it's not true, and it's going to have an effect. But indeed, words are very rascals since bonds disgraced them. Thy reason, man? Troth, sir, I can yield you none without words, and words are grown so false I am loath to prove reason with them. So this whole scene sets up the idea that words and language can't be trusted in this play. But also, do you know what can't be trusted? What you're seeing. Because people are disguised. We've said ourselves, haven't we, that we don't believe Orsino when he goes on about how much he loves Olivia. So that's what's being developed there. And carest for nothing. Not so, sir, I do care for something, but in my conscience, sir, I do not care for you. If that be to care for nothing, sir, I would it would make you invisible. Art not thou the Lady Olivia's fool? No, indeed, sir, the Lady Olivia has no folly. She will keep no fool, sir, till she be married, and fools are as like husbands as pilchards are to herrings, the husband's the bigger. Right. So we're getting quite a condemnatory view of marriage there. What's Feste said before about marriage? Many a good hanging has prevented a bad marriage. Right. Is this play going to end with good marriages? Maybe that's something we should write in our margin. God, these nails. I am indeed not her fool, but her corrupt of words. Now, I'm going to kind of skip over this a little bit because what's interesting here, now Jove in his next commodity of hair send thee a beard, and Viola says, by my troth I'll tell thee, I am almost sick for one though I would not have it grow on my chin. What on earth is she saying there? She's sick. She wants a beard. She doesn't want it to grow on her chin. Orsino's got a beard and she wants Orsino. Good. Anything else? I've got a few people giving me sidelong smirks. Laura?
It could be to do with the disguise. She's trying to be man.
Brilliant. She's perhaps worried that her disguise as a man isn't convincing enough, and if she had a beard, it would be better. Who's reading their Arden notes? Because if you are, that's why you're giving me that funny look. With emphasis on my, Viola would like to possess Orsino's beard and thus him. Good. Rather than one of her own. However, with emphasis on chin, Partridge suggests an allusion to the beard of pubic hair. This is where we kind of lose a lot of students, like, why is everything about sex? Well, I think I'm with you on this one. I think these two readings are much more plausible. I don't really see why that would insinuate that she doesn't have pubic hair, or what indeed it adds to the plot of Twelfth Night to make it in any way better. So I am inclined to just ignore that and go with those two readings. You may do as you wish with it, but if you're going to put it in your essays, I'm going to want to be convinced. And then Feste talks about breeding, but he's talking about the coins and hoping to get more money. And then he makes an obscure reference to Lord Pandarus. Pandarus was the uncle of Cressida, and Troilus was a Trojan prince, and Pandarus more or less sold Cressida to the Trojan prince. So there's something about like a sexual go-between. It's also him just showing off his knowledge. I wouldn't worry about that bit too much if I were you. What is important is that Feste is going to go on and tell Olivia that Cesario is here. And Viola says, this fellow is wise enough to play the fool. What does that mean?
It is maybe like around the people to like kind of understand their life.
Right, so it's showing that he's got a good understanding of people. That's lovely, Bex. What else? Stephen?
Well, I think maybe he's pretending to be a fool so he can know what's going on.
Yeah, it's that word play. In order to play foolish, to actually, there's a difference between him. Sir Andrew just is foolish. He's not playing at it, he just is. Whereas Feste is playing at it, and that actually takes a great deal of skill. I don't know who your favourite comedians are, but many of them are really, really intelligent people. They've got degrees. I love Dara O'Brien, although I went to see him live, and he just talked really quickly. I missed half of what he said, and I was like, I had front row seats as well. Just really couldn't understand a lot of it. But, he's like super smart, physics smart. So, there you go. And to do that well craves a kind of wit. He must observe their mood on whom he jests, the quality of persons and the time, and, like the haggard, check at every feather that comes before his eye. This is a practice as full of labour as a wise man's art, for folly that he wisely shows is fit, but wise men, folly fallen, quite taint their wit. Would anyone like to unpick that a bit for me? It's just an expansion of what she said there, but there's a bit more to it. Stephen?
Because she's calling it wise and that, maybe because she sees through her disguise as much as he sees through hers.
So, do you think Viola is starting to worry that he's suspected her? Yeah, that's interesting. I like that idea. Alicia?
Could you say that he sort of like preys on the people that he's like trying to make fun of and have a laugh at?
I think there is. So basically, to be a good fool, you've got to really pay attention to who you're looking at, and it's something that takes a lot of labour and practice. So she's praising Feste, and Feste it's like it's like an inadvertent praise because he studied them so much. Yeah, lovely. What's a haggard? Oh, that book smells strong. A female hawk. Caught as an adult and thus difficult, it's a wild female hawk, difficult to train. So there's something, we've got that hunting motif come back, but here it's being used very differently. It's linked with intelligence. So if you are playing at being a fool and you're kind of licensed to do it, that's fine. But where does that last line take us? But wise men, folly fallen, quite taint their wit. Grace?
Malleable.
Go on, tell me how.
He kind of acts this all-intelligent person, but really he's been fooled.
Yes, good. Good. So when they are felled by folly, they look even more stupid. Lovely. There's a very weird exchange about whether they should go in and use their legs. Again, I'm not going to go over that in too much detail, except Sir Andrew is also quite taken by Cesario at this point and wants to... that youth's a rare courtier, Reynard as well. And he does it again here. Ooh, Oda's pregnant and vouchsafed. I'll get them all three ready. He's like, oh, I like what he's saying there. I'm going to start pinching those words and start using them. It emphasises Sir Andrew's foolishness even more, because what he's now doing is saying that he's going to copy a girl dressed as a boy who is courting his love interest. Oh, poor Sir Andrew. And then they all go, and Olivia gets her chance to woo Cesario. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Sorry, I don't think I've quite got this visualiser right, have I? Now, we're back to the ideas of servitude and romance, as Viola's been asked her name. Cesario is your servant's name, fair princess. It's a pretty straightforward answer. I'm your servant. My name's Cesario. Here I am. My servant, sir, 'twas never merry world since lowly feigning was called compliment. Your servant to the Count Orsino, youth. Why else does she not want him to be her servant? Yeah, because she wants to woo him. And Viola says, and he is yours, and his must needs be yours. Your servant's servant is your servant, madam. I serve Orsino, Orsino serves you, therefore I serve you. For him, I think not on him. For his thoughts, would they were blanks rather than filled with me. I didn't bring you here to talk about Orsino. And what are these blanks that she's referring to? Use your notes again if you need to. Blank sheets of paper. Right. It's no good. She's in the book of his secret soul. Did I get the quotation right that time? Madam, I come to whet your gentle thoughts on his behalf. What does that word wet mean there? Whether it's got an H. Predispose, literally sharpen. Do you know what a whetstone is? A whetstone is something you would sharpen knives or instruments on. So he's there to... So when we say to whet your appetite, we don't mean to make it moist. We mean to sharpen it, to get it ready. Megan just cringed at me using the word moist there. I don't see the problem with that word. I know loads of people hate it, but... Oh, by your leave, I pray you, I bade you never speak again of him. But would you undertake another suit? I had rather hear you solicit that than music from the spheres. Right. She wants to hear him talk about something else. Dear lady, give me leave, beseech you. I did send after the last enchantment you did here a ring in chase of you. Oh, enchantment! She's put a spell on him, her, whoever. Maybe I should stop singing since this is on record. And my own child told me not to sing in lessons. She's not here. So did I abuse myself, my servant, and, I fear me, you. So she's confessing. She's doing to Cesario what Viola wants to do to Orsino. Under your hard construction must I sit. What does that mean? Hard construction? Go on, Oliver, what's it say in your notes for hard construction?
Severe judgment.
Severe judgment. Hang on, he's her servant. Servants don't judge their masters, do they? So she's actually giving Cesario quite a bit of power here. To force that on you in a shameful cunning which you knew none of yours. What might you what on earth did you think you knew that the ring wasn't yours? Have you not set mine honour at the stake and baited it with all the unmuzzled thoughts that tyrannous heart can think? Right, there's a load of AO2 there. Can you see how that's an interesting quotation? The vocabulary is interesting. So first of all, what does it mean to set honour at the stake? Baited it with unmuzzled thoughts and a tyrannous heart. Before we even get to a cypress and not a bosom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things there. Right, unpick that for me. What's going on? Go on, Megan.
Would you say that the baited is a link to bear baited?
You definitely could. So, this is a stake. Oh, we're going to do some great drawing now. And normally, what would be tied to it would be a bear, and then dogs would be set on it. But what's been tied to it here by a chain, there's my chain, is her honour. And instead of dogs going for it, what does she suggest has gone for it? The unmuzzled thoughts of that tyrannous heart. Grace.
She's freeing her thoughts and what she thinks.
So there's ideas of freedom. That's lovely, Grace. But whose are the unmuzzled thoughts? Alicia? They're Cesario's. She's basically saying, I'm being really obvious because I know you'll get it, but don't kind of treat me too unkindly. What does tyrannous mean? Tyranny, a tyrant. A bad leader. Ruthless. Right. So, is she being serious there? But if you are, excuse me, where's my water? If you live under tyrannical rule, You are governed by that. So she's also saying here that his heart has tyranny over her. That's more kind of the idea. So it's a very complex set of images there, but they work really well, don't they? Well, I think they do. It's a good sound effect to have on the video there. Did your mum enjoy the video yesterday, Lee?
She was talking, she was like showing it. She was like, it's that. I was like,
To one of your receiving, enough is shown. A cypress, not a bosom, hides my heart. So she's also she knows that Cesaria's going to get what she's talking about. And there's probably a reference here to the fact that this is a male actor playing Viola in the first place. So probably just like one of those daft jokes to the audience. And Viola replies to all of this, I pity you. Oh. Now, if someone said that a couple of years ago, longer than that now, because I've been with Eddie 6 years, I became enamoured of a man. And I sent him a message asking if he wanted to meet for a drink. Hi. He knew who I was. And I sent him a message asking if he wanted to meet for a drink. And his reply was non-existent. He didn't even just reply saying, oh, I'm flattered, but I have a girlfriend or something. Nothing. Makes it very awkward every time I walk past him now. Oh, it doesn't make it awkward at all because I don't care. But it was kind of like, oh, that's rude. That's rude to do that to somebody. Would I have preferred him to have replied, I pity you? No, I wouldn't. Actually, no reply is better than that. But not for Olivia. I've just realised that's on video as well now, forever. She says, well, that's a degree to love. She says, I'll take that, because pity is part of love. No, not a grise, for 'tis a vulgar proof that very oft we pity enemies. Viola said, no, it doesn't mean I love you. We pity our enemies sometimes. We don't love our enemies. Why then, methinks 'tis time to smile again. She's not taking no for an answer. Do we love Olivia here? Do we feel sorry for her? Do we pity her? At least she's showing some agency and some oomph. Alicia?
could you say that Cesaria was trying to be like gentle, like letting her down, but she like thinks gentle's affection, so she's like going on with it, so he's like trying to be harsh.
It's exactly that. The more Cesario, as a woman, tries to be tender, the less effect it has. O world, how apt the poor are to be proud. If one should be a prey, how much the better to fall before the lion than the wolf. Right, what's going on here? That she doesn't even mind that she's fallen for him and his lowly status. The clock strikes. The clock upbraids me with the waste of time. Be not afraid, good youth. I will not have you. And yet when wit and youth is come to harvest, your wife is like to reap a proper man. There lies your way due west. So at this point, she says, okay, I can see that I can't have you. And perhaps to save face a little bit, she suggests that you're not quite ready for a woman like me. When your wit and youth has come to harvest, your wife is like to reap a proper man. Still giving the agency there to Cesario's future wife. Viola is quite relieved here, then westward ho. All right, I'll be off. But before I go, is there anything you want to say to Orsino? Oh, Olivia, stay. I prithee, tell me what thou thinkest of me. Hang on, you've just said that you do think you are not what you are. What does Viola mean there? What does Viola mean there?
Olivia's forgetting herself because that power.
Yeah, like I think that because Viola knows that she hasn't fallen in love with Cesario because Cesario doesn't exist. But how do you say that to somebody? If I think so, I think the same of you. Viola says, then you think, right, I am not what I am. I love that line. Iago uses that line in Othello, but for a very different reason. Because he's a nasty pasty. You might only know Iago as the parrot in Aladdin. No? Yeah. But he's a nasty character. He's one of my favourite characters as well, though. He's just evil and nasty for the sake of it. I would you were as I would have you be. They're quite equally matched, aren't they, verbally, these two? Would it be better, madam, than I am? I wish it might, for now I am your fool. What does that mean? What might Viola be wishing there? Maybe wishing that she actually was a man. Maybe? Yes, good. Because now she's kind of making a fool out of him, but not on purpose. But he's a bit stuck. Now Olivia, oh, what a deal of scorn looks beautiful in the contempt and anger of his lip. Oh, the angrier he gets, the more delicious he is. A murderous guilt shows not itself more soon than love would seem hid. What a bizarre analogy to make. Murder and guilt and love that would seem hid. Love's night is noon. So in the same way that you can't, that a murderous guilt will be, we know this if we've done Macbeth, don't we? The spectre at the feast. There's old Banquo shaking his gory locks at Macbeth. I love that play. I hope you've still got like a tender place in your heart for it. Maybe you've got more of a one because you didn't actually have to sit an exam on it. Oh, you did, Neve, yeah. And you, Laura. Well, you shouldn't be so old, should you? And in the same way, you can't hide love. And then she, Cesario, by the roses of the spring, by maidhood, honour, truth, and everything, I love thee, so that, maugre all thy pride, nor wit nor reason can my passion hide. Do not extort thy reasons from this clause, for that I woo, thou therefore hast no cause, but rather reason thus with reason fetter. Love sought is good, but given unsought is better. She doesn't really give him anywhere to go in that. Just don't overthink it, she's saying. Just go with it, because when love just arrives, you should just take it. That word maugre, it's a great word, it's a very old word, and it means in spite of. Despite thy pride, and how kind of scornfully he's responding to her, she's going to say it anyway. I bloody love Olivia here. She's so brave. She just puts herself out there. However, she's probably thinking, who's going to refuse her? She's got quite a bit of money. She probably can't understand why this servant isn't like, woohoo! Because what's going to happen when she says this to Sebastian? He's going to go, woohoo! And Viola, oh bless her, by innocence I swear, and by my youth I have one heart, one bosom and one truth, and that no woman has. Nor never none shall mistress be of it, save I alone. So it's a very truthful answer. And so adieu, good madam. Nevermore will I my master's tears to you deplore. And even as he leaves, she says, yet come again. Yet come again, for thou perhaps mayest move that heart which now abhors to like his love. You might change your mind. Come back. Oh, bless. Right. So I think we'll leave it there. That's a good 36 minutes of me wittering on.